You can't start your video because hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We will get started in a while. So people are still joining in. So between that, if everyone can introduce themselves and let us know where you're from, your name and where you're located, that would be great. And also, if you can hear me, please type yes so that we know that the audio is working. That's great. 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 Also, if you guys can introduce yourself and let us know who you are and where you're from. Laptop charge again? Okay, so before we get started, let me introduce myself. This is Nirmal. I head marketing and partnerships at RepUp. RepUp is a software as a service company helping hotels improve their revenue, reputation, and entire guest experience. We work with hotels, 2,000 plus hotels in around 15 plus countries. And Anisha, who handles marketing and communications in our company, will deliver the webinar today. And you guys can ask questions anytime during the webinar through the questions tab in the webinar window. However, the questions will be only answered at the end of the session, right? We don't want to break the continuity of the session. And if you have any issues during the webinar session with audio or display, you can send us a message through chat and we will look through what's wrong there. So thank you once again for taking out the time to attend this session. We hope you take away a lot from here. Yeah, so that's it. Over to you, Anisha.
Thanks, Nirmal. So just to get started, we have a couple of questions that will be polling questions. So we'll get started with those and then we'll jump into the webinar. So the first question is kind of a fun question just to see how much we're in touch with what's happening in the travel and tourism industry. So you should be able to see the question in front of you on your screen right now. The question is, which city has received the most tourists in 2019? So if you can go ahead and start answering, I'll give about a minute for everyone to answer. All right. So most of you voted correctly. Bangkok is the city that has been visited by the most number of tourists in 2019 so far. So good job. All of these cities are in the top 10. So I can understand it's a little confusing, but Bangkok is the city so far up till June of 2019 that has been visited the most. So the next question that we have is a question that's more related to what we're going to talk about today in terms of solutions and how kind of tech plays into increasing hotel revenue. So I'll launch this question as well, and I'll give another minute for you to answer this question. So the question is, are you using any of the following solutions? CRM only, or CRM and an upselling tool, CRM upselling and an email marketing tool, and then also reputation management, or none of the above? All right, so most of you seem to be using an entire solution where it's CRM and upselling and email marketing and reputation management. And that's really great to hear. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can leverage that to increase your hotel's revenue. We have one last question just to understand kind of where y'all are coming from. So this last question, and then we'll dive into the webinar. So I'll give another minute for this. So we just want to understand what your current role is in your organization, and how that relates to what we're going to talk about. All right, great. Seems like the majority of you are either management, or you own the hotel, or you're from the sales and marketing department, which is also great because we're going to talk a lot about marketing communications and what you could be doing to kind of increase your revenue through those marketing communications. Right. So let's kind of jump into the webinar at this point. Right, so I think Nirmal kind of introduced me a little. So I'm Amy, and I'm the Marketing Communications Manager at WrapUp. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some systems that you could implement to easily increase your hotel's revenue. So before we get into the meat of the webinar, I wanted to kind of take a minute and review a real scenario of a client that we have. Unfortunately, we can't give out the name of the client, but you can see the profile of the property. So it's about a 100-room property with an online reputation of 3 out of 5. Their average room rate is about $120, and their occupancy was about 68%. So we can see that their bookings, about 45% are coming in from online booking partners and OTAs, and about 25% of bookings were direct through their direct sales channel. And then there's also some amount of bookings from corporate contracts and other sources as well. So with this kind of a profile, this hotel was able to bring in about $2 million in revenue. And if we add the amount that they were able to make from selling other hotel services to their guests, we see they make about $3.2 million in revenue over the course of a year. So now let's take a look at the potential revenue that they could be making. So we're basing these numbers on a couple of studies done by Cornell Hospitality and Harvard Business Review, and we've added those links to the studies for you at the bottom of this slide, so you can take a look at them at a later time. So so these studies say that if online rating increases by about 1 point, so let's say maybe from 3 to 4, the price can increase by around 11.2%. And if online rating increases by 10%, the occupancy can actually change or increase by 5.4%. And also that satisfied guests spend about 140% more than guests that are unsatisfied. So let's, take a minute and assume a situation where this hotel managed to increase their online reputation from a 3 to a 5. So here's what that actually does to their revenue, right? So they're able to increase their room rate by 22.4%, and their occupancy increases from 68% to about 90% now. Additionally, let's say they've got some systems in place to drive more direct marketing. So they're reducing their dependence on online OTAs, right? And they're saving on the commission from that. And then let's also say that these systems are automated for the most part. So they're saving some money and time and on human resources as well. So here's the difference. With just, kind of those key changes that I mentioned, the same hotel is able to pull in 5.6 million in revenue instead of just about 3 million. Their room rate has increased, their occupancy has increased, and their revenue from ancillary services has also increased. And they're also able to save a ton on commissions and staff time and resources. So, how are they able to do this, right? So there are a few things that we're going to talk about. So if you're a hotel that's about 20 rooms, it might be easy to keep track of maybe reputation or other parameters of how your hotel's doing in an Excel document. But if you're a property that has more than 20 rooms, it might get a little difficult to keep track of things without, a proper system in place. So tracking and reporting issues through a system, or even if you're manually tracking it, will help you identify problem areas or perhaps areas of improvement. And once you identify these, then it becomes really easy to kind of take corrective measures to fix the underlying issue. So most of the time, about 80% of your guest complaints will revolve around the same 20% of actual problems. So the second thing is that you want to communicate with guests through the proper channels at every stage of their journey. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you should be communicating with guests. So actually about 68% of guests don't write a review simply because they weren't asked to write one. So that's something that you can definitely start doing. So you also want to segment guests and offer ancillary services in a way that it does not seem intrusive. So most of the time, if you go up to a guest repeatedly, it can seem intrusive, or it might actually have a negative effect on the guest. So we'll also talk about how to segment guests according to different factors so that you're only offering them relevant ancillary services. So we also want to use a unified system that has automation so you can, kind of work at 100% capacity even with less staff. It's helpful to have systems that are interconnected so that you have a single source of truth. So I'll take some time to also explain about what this means in the following slides. So in this webinar, we will be covering the guest journey and how you can optimize communications to generate revenue. We'll also be talking about the complexity of current hotel systems and how integrated systems can really boost your revenue considerably. And then I'll also be sharing some free tools that you could use to begin creating more effective guest communications that will definitely help bring in more revenue. So before we start talking about the future of the guest experience, we need to take a step back and look at the current guest experience journey. So these are the stages of the guest life cycle that starts with research and then booking, planning, in-stay, post-stay, and then return. So this entire process may happen in the span of a few days, or it might even be a few months. For some 5-star experiential properties that we work with, just the research phase itself can be as long as 90 days or more. And, on the side of the hotel, all of these stages involve all of this work where the guest is being checked in, the guest is being served. You might have maintenance work being done at the hotel. There's also communications among staff and also with the guest. And the end goal of all of this is to really provide a better than expected guest experience, because a good experience will create loyalty, and loyalty will drive repeat bookings, and repeat bookings drives higher revenue. Right? And of course, we're all hoping for a TripAdvisor review at the end of it. So when RepUp came to kind of understand the hospitality industry, we saw a technology stack that was just way too complicated. So running a hotel is already complex enough. you have various departments that all need to work together. Your staff work differently at night and on weekends than they do during the day. People call in sick all the time. And the guest doesn't see any of these back-end operations, right? They only see the end result. And when you look at the current technology stack, it becomes even more complicated. So the current stack usually has maybe 3 to 5 systems that are running one single operation. So you're spending thousands a month, and because all of these platforms generally existed before the cloud, they might not speak to each other. So more importantly, you're not spending all that money for setup and maintenance, but you're not getting the data that you need, and you're not getting the benefits of collaboration, and there's no transparency as to what is actually happening with your hotel and with your guests. So most of the GMs that we work with, they actually never take off, because if they do, they don't have a clue as to what might go wrong on premise at the property with the guest, and all of those things. So this next slide that you see is an image that we actually built with one of our customers that shows the current communication channel between departments in hotels that are still using legacy technologies. And you can see that it's an extremely complicated web. So it's almost like a subway system. And like a subway, you can't get off the train halfway through. You kind of have to wait till you get to the next stop. And so what happens is that you end up running, maybe 7 different types of communications just for the front desk alone. Maybe you're doing an email, you're doing text messaging, you're doing, you're using maybe your PMS system, you're using a housekeeping system, maybe you're using pen and paper. It's just a lot of different ways of communicating just for one process. And then you also, on top of this, of course, have in-person communication happening. So whether that's within the team or with the guest as well. Now, guest experience management is really about simplifying this entire process, and it's about sending the right communication to the right person at the right time through the right channel, most importantly. And what happens when you kind of get all of this into one place and you're sending the right communications is that it will help you get a lot more revenue, because the guest experience is a lot smoother, and also guests are more likely to buy relevant upsells that you're selling. So like we were talking about, current guest experience management platforms are really way too fragmented, and hotels have created data islands. And if one person wants to see what's happening to the entire guest experience, there's no actual way of doing so, because these systems are on premise and they're not necessarily connected to the cloud, and they may not even be connected to each other. So it's only when these systems start to work together that you really get to see an impact. So when you start seeing your guest app journey fit into your CRM journey, and most of you said that you're using kind of an all-around solution with a CRM and an upselling and reputation management. So when you see all of these start talking to each other, that's when you have a really healthy integration. So right now there's a huge shift in the hospitality industry where people are opening up their platforms, letting companies plug into each other, letting platforms plug into each other. And before the cloud, this was not at all possible and would have taken up a lot of time. But now when you're choosing a partner that has an open system, they can just plug into your system and start delivering from day one. So just to give you an idea of what an integrated system could look like, you can see that on this slide, we have an example of our system just to give you a feel. And you can see that a single dashboard allows everything to sit in one place. So this is an example of a guest profile that shows, basic demographic information. It also shows what the person's or the guest activities are in sales as well as marketing, and also maybe any complaints or compliments that the guest has made. You can also see what the guests' interests and preferences are and what reviews they might have written about your hotel in the past. So from a single point of view, because you have this integrated environment, you are actually capturing the entire guest experience and not just one tiny portion of it. And with this entire kind of integrated experience, what you will have is you'll have the benefit of knowing what is the next perhaps communication that you should be sending to this guest, or what is the relevant upsell that this guest would be more likely to buy, or what are some third party experiences that I could promote to this guest based on their interests or their preferences. What maybe food and beverage options should I provide for them based on their whether they're vegetarian or non-vegetarian, etc., etc. So there's a lot that you can do with guest data that will help you kind of definitely ramp up your revenue. So these types of integrations really play a role in delivering the right communications to guests at the right time, and we've been talking a lot about that. So this lets you start identifying and building up on revenue opportunities. So before we talk about maybe what types of communications or upsells you could be sending to guests, it's important to realize that personalized communications are only really possible with the integrated systems we've been talking about. So when we talk about personalization, we mean communications that are designed specifically for a segment of guests. So some examples of segments are, could be business travelers or couple and family travelers. So if we go through the entire guest journey, you first have pre-arrival communications that you should be sending to your guests. So that would include perhaps the booking confirmation and a pre-arrival welcome email. So this welcome email is a huge opportunity to upsell to your guest. And we'll talk about, based on the segment, what type of upsells you could be sending to that particular guest. The next step is preference collection. So this helps you personalize your guest stay to just the way they like it. After pre-arrival, we have the check-in process, and this can be fast based on the guest preferences. And you could also offer them a speedy check-in through maybe a web check-in facility or a mobile concierge. So during the stay, you definitely want to use marketing promotions to offer guests upsells for additional services. So if you do have a mobile concierge system set up, you could also track all in-room requests. So with an integrated system, you have the benefit of tracking staff tasks, making sure that request complaints or issues are being handled timely. You could also collect in-stay feedback. And this is a big thing because this will actually help minimize negative reviews posted online. And kind of in the example that we saw at the beginning of the webinar, just 1 point increase in reputation will definitely help you increase your revenue a whole lot. So through the entire stay, it's important to remember to continue to collect guest data like purchase history and stay history so that you can further personalize the guest's next stay. So in an integrated system, you could collect and push reviews directly to review websites at checkout. So this also ensures that you have an active review collection system. Active review collection is something that actually helps you increase your hotel's reputation and improve it rather than decrease it. A lot of people kind of assume that if you give a chance to complain, they will complain, but that's not actually the case. So a lot of studies have shown that if you drive an active review collection process, you're more likely to get positive reviews than negative reviews. So after checkout, you should definitely engage your guests by sending them bring back campaigns. And these bring back campaigns are definitely going to help you kind of reduce your dependency on ODAs. And these will definitely drive not only just repeat bookings, but also direct bookings. So you're saving on those commissions here. So at this point, I have another fun question that we could maybe all answer so that we are still all here and engaged. So this question is about which country has the most, or rather has a hotel with the most number of rooms. So the question should be on your screen now, and I'll wait for about a minute for everyone to vote. So the question is, which country has the hotel with the most number of rooms? The options are Thailand, Macau, Malaysia, and USA. I'll give it another maybe 10-15 seconds. Okay, so seems to be that only 5% of people got this question right. So the hotel with the most number of rooms is actually in Malaysia. It's called the First World Hotel, and it has a capacity of 7,351 hotels. The others are also still in the top 10. The next three largest hotels are actually in the US, and then also Macau, and then Thailand is actually 10th on the list. But Malaysia is definitely the first, so they have the First World Hotel that has the most number of rooms in the world. So great, great to see that we're all still here and that we're all still engaged. So as we get back to the webinar, so now I kind of want to talk about into segmentation a little bit and talk about what types of communications you could be sending to your guest. So segmentation is definitely important when you're sending any communication to your guest. It makes them seem more likely to buy relevant upgrades and upsells that will definitely increase your revenue. So if we look at this slide and let's talk about the business traveler first. So you definitely want to be sending them those pre-arrival emails, maybe 1 or 2 days before arrival. The upsells that you could be sending them could be more utility based. So it could be laundry, it could be a hotel transfer, pick and drop service. You could definitely send them food and beverage offers, and you could also maybe send them upsells for conference rooms or business center reservations, things that they would be interested in and they would be more likely to buy. In the post-stay stage, you definitely want to send them a thanks and feedback email where you ask for a review or ask for feedback. Like I said, 68% of guests don't write a review simply just because they weren't asked to write a review. So you definitely want to capitalize on that communication and you want to ask them to write a review for you. When we talk about couple travelers, so again, you want to send the pre-arrival email maybe about 5 days before arrival. So they're more likely to take a little time to plan. They're not in a rush. They're coming to kind of have an experience. So you want to offer them upsells that are experiential based. So it could be a spa experience. You could promote third-party experiences here, maybe a heritage walk or maybe some kind of sightseeing tour. You definitely want to send them upsells maybe around food and beverage with a special experiential kind of portion added onto it. So like a candlelight dinner. Pick and drop, of course, is across the board. That's a really good upsell to have. We've seen that that's one of the highest bought upsells across all of our clients. You want to have the thanks and feedback stage where you ask them to write a review. And you definitely want to have a bring back campaign so that you are kind of encouraging direct bookings and repeat bookings as well. With family travelers, you definitely, again, want to send them the pre-arrival email, but you want to send them the pre-arrival email about 7 days before arrival. They will probably need a little bit more time to plan. They might have children with them, or they might have, older couples with them, senior citizens. So you definitely want to send upsells around those things. So excursions should be kid-friendly, for the whole family. You definitely, again, want to offer them pick and drop services, food and beverage, of course, and then laundry services are also something that you could offer family travelers. Again, in the post-stay kind of stage, you definitely, again, want to do the thanks and feedback, ask them to leave a review, write a review, and then also the bring back email campaign where you drive direct and repeat bookings as well. So I just want to talk about, briefly highlight the benefits you could have with an integrated platform, and then I'll be sharing some free tools that can help you kind of get started on this entire process. So because of the lack of consolidated data, you lose out on identifying opportunities to actually upsell to your guests. So no insight into guest data results in generalized communications or generic communications that you're sending to everyone, as compared to more personalized communications that are definitely more likely to generate additional revenue. So without an integrated system, review collection can be fragmented and requires too many extra steps to be posted on external review sites. So for example, if one of the guests wanted to post a review on TripAdvisor, either they would have to create an account and log in on a desktop, or they would have to download the app on their phone and then kind of get into that app, create an account again, and then write a review for your hotel. But with an integrated system, it becomes possible to directly push reviews to external review sites. You also want to, have consolidated guest data, because without that guest data, you cannot really run bring back and loyalty campaigns. So with guest data, if you have their email, if you have their contact information, that's when you can really use that data to run bring back campaigns. That will again increase your direct bookings, so saving commission fees, and also it will encourage repeat bookings as well. So you can send them offers from time to time. You can send them coupon codes, things like that. So you definitely want to use guest data to limit your dependency on third-party OTAs and other booking sites as well. On the flip side, all of these issues can definitely be handled with an integrated CRM, which I'm sure some of you are already using. So emailing and upselling tools will allow you to increase your revenue, achieve higher booking rates, and even have an improved online reputation and higher rankings. And like we saw, just that kind of 2-point increase in online reputation resulted in about 2 to 3 million extra revenue. So that's definitely something that you want to be looking for. So now if we start talking about the free tools, so these are some free tools that some of you may or may not already be using, but these can help you get started to make your communications a lot better and a little more integrated than they might be right now. So Canva is a free designing tool that even I use all the time that can help you design graphics for your social posts or even for your emailers. Attractive graphics will definitely grab your guest attention and can push them a lot closer to buying upgrades or even returning to your hotel. So MailChimp is a free bulk emailing system, and it does have inbuilt functionalities to personalize emails with names, first names. You can even segment your guests to some degree. So you can say, business traveler, couple traveler, etc., etc. But you will still have to upload, physically upload, manually upload lists of emails to get started, and then you will have to manually remove or edit these lists as needed. So many of you might already be using Excel, but make sure you're really leveraging all of the functions that Excel provides to create better reports and analytics to help you identify key trends in your guest behavior. So we talked in the beginning a little bit about keeping track of your guest behavior and trends so that you can kind of identify those problem areas or key issues, and then you can kind of take corrective measures based on that. So you can incorporate your findings into segmented email campaigns as well. So if you're tracking guest behavior and you see that guests are not opening a particular email or they are not clicking on a particular email, so you could use that data to then, take corrective measures in your email campaigns and then achieve higher open and click rates as well. If you're looking for stunning photographs to use in any of your communications, unsplash.com or Pexels are great places to find such images. Again, something that I use all the time. The images are royalty free and can be used for any purpose, including commercial use for no extra charge. So that's a great, great resource. So at this point, we're going to open it up for a couple of questions. If you want to know more about our particular CRM that can help you improve your current guest experience revenue, you can send me an email directly at amy@wrapup.me, and that's on your screen. Also, if you would like to visit our website, all that information is also provided on the screen. So we will be sending all the attendees a recording of this webinar, so you have all of this information with you. But yes, so we would like to open it up for questions at this point. Okay, so does your CRM integrate with Opera, and what type of integration do you provide? Yes, so our CRM actually does integrate with Opera. and it is a two-way integration. And if you would like to know more about the other PMSs that we integrate with as well, you can definitely shoot me an email and we'll get back to you with more information. But yes, we do definitely integrate with Opera. So what platform are we using within a property for communication to guests for upselling mobile? So if I talk about our particular platform, so yes, you could be using email or you could be using a mobile concierge, which is a web-based app. So the guest doesn't actually have to download any app. They can just click on a link that you send them in an email, and then they can directly buy upsells from there. Yes, so you will definitely be getting this presentation with the entire recording in an email within the next couple of days, possibly even today or tomorrow. So you will be definitely getting this entire presentation as well as the recording. So operations and reputation. Mr. Rajesh, could you perhaps elaborate on that question? I'm not quite sure what your question is. Yes, so you could ask them. So there are two with our particular system. Again, there are, I'm not sure how other integrated systems work, but with experience, so what you could do is you could ask for in-state feedback, and there's a feedback form that that you would be sending to your guests that is kind of pre-made and pre-developed, and they would simply be answering those feedback questions, and then those feedback questions convert into a review. That is directly then pushed onto TripAdvisor and other external review sites as well. So that is how our particular feedback system works. So they can, provide you feedback during their stay, and then maybe at the checkout or post checkout, like I was saying, maybe 2 days after checkout, they can directly push that review onto TripAdvisor. Ms. Anil, that is a great question. I will get your email from our attendees list, and then I will directly get in touch. I will put you in touch with someone in our team, one of my associates that handles kind of installation and operations and all those things in Nepal. So I will definitely get you in touch with that person. So thank you so much for that question. Any other questions at this point? If yes, I'm not quite sure what that question is again. So will TripAdvisor, so what is the guest doing exactly? Integrated solution you would like to know more. So definitely, again, just shoot me an email at amy@wrapup.me and we can send you an entire product deck. And we will talk more about the product to you directly as well. Any other questions? Mr. Rajesh, I will also get your email from our attendees list and then directly put you in touch with someone that can tell you more and perhaps even have a demo. So I'll wait for maybe another minute or two for any other questions that anyone might have. So we definitely have apps that can be installed in Android. So the entire Experian product does integrate directly with your PMS though. So that is something that would have to be, handled by a tech team and by your property as well. So that's something that is done, but there are apps that you can use, that you can download onto your phone that you can use to track, whatever's happening at your hotel. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to kind of close the questions for now, since we're running a little short on time. But what we will do is, so there are a couple of things that we're offering. We would really like to kind of have a call with you individually and talk about the potential revenue that your hotel could be making, with maybe an integrated solution, or even without it, like what steps you could be taking to kind of increase or ramp up your revenue. So we definitely want to extend that to you. So I'm adding a link to the chat that you'll be able to click on and then book a 20-minute free kind of assessment call for your specific hotel. So then we can sit down with you and then we can talk about maybe what you're doing right now and maybe what you could be doing to kind of increase your revenue. So I'm just adding that link to the chat. Yeah, so that's the link. You can click on that link and directly just book a session with my associate Rishabh. And then we can set up that call and then we can have a 20-minute discussion about how perhaps your specific hotel could be making more revenue and how you can get there. So just to tell you a little bit more as I close, so we actually work with about 2,000 clients across 15 countries, and this is just a few of the people that we work with. But we've helped all of these kind of hotels. We've helped all of them increase their revenue, increase their reputation, kind of manage their reputation better. And we've helped all of them with whether it's CRM or upselling or the reputation management module, the email marketing automation module. So we've helped them kind of ramp up their revenue with our current product right now. If you have any questions, again, any of the questions that perhaps we weren't able to get to today, and I apologize for that a lot, we are running short of time. But if you have any questions that you would really like us to answer, or like, we talked about that free assessment of your hotel and what you could be doing to ramp up your revenue, please do email me at amy@repup.me, and then we will get back to you as soon as possible. And the recording of this webinar with the presentation and the voice recording, will definitely send that out either today or tomorrow, within this week for sure, so that you can have that for your reference as well. Right, so we'd like to thank all of you for joining us. It was really great to see so many people engaged throughout the entire webinar. And we will definitely keep you in the loop for our upcoming webinars. We most probably will have another webinar next month. So we will definitely keep you in the loop as to our next upcoming webinar as well. So just want to thank you again so much for attending the webinar, and I hope to see you next time as well.